done before, leading up to their LinkedIn purchase. We're going to go over the financials. We're going to cover, again, some of the risks that they're involved with in actually taking on this giant $26 billion acquisition. And we're going to go over pros and cons, what's good and what's bad about this particular buy. First is the acquisitions, the background of what we're doing here. Vizio was in 2000 for $1.5 billion, a lot of money, a lot of zeros. Diagrams and drafting. Now, why do they make all these acquisitions? I think Microsoft wants to better the products they already have. Vizio, what they wanted to do with that is tie into their Office world that they already have. Microsoft Office, Word, all those things. They wanted to make that a bedfellow with that. As same with all the other items that they've purchased. They purchased Navision, which is accounting software, which who doesn't need accounting software? Lionhead, we all know about the Xbox 360 and the whole evolution of that. So what's the next thing? If you have your own platform, why not buy companies that make games? So they have Lionhead and others like Rage, or there's a couple others. Skype, of course, big. What they wanted to do with Skype, they want to tie that in with their Microsoft Messenger. They were fighting with Yahoo Messenger, so why not bolster theirs with something stronger, tying Skype in with it. That's why they purchased Skype. Nokia, of course, it was a flop, unfortunately. Mobile Data Labs is one of the top iTunes products in their store for calculating mileage for taxes. So I guess they wanted to be part of that. Next, the last thing we're going to cover today is LinkedIn. The huge, put themselves in debt, thank you very much for telling us that, acquisition for the reason for LinkedIn, I think, is their step to get into the mobile cloud. Right now, Microsoft, being as it is a very concise business that's been run like every other business up to this point. It wasn't using a lot of cloud like Apple's or anything else. So with the acquisition of LinkedIn, it has a big platform where it can start becoming part of the mobile network, which everyone's using, phones, iPads, all that. Basic raw data is the prices before and the price after. As you can see, the price before for Microsoft was 51.8, went down right after, and LinkedIn, of course, jumped. Surprisingly, I wouldn't say surprisingly, because it's a good deal for LinkedIn. They jumped. Now, if you look at that and say, oh, well, Microsoft went down, why would they do it? That'll get into, of course, the risks later on. But if you looked at, which I did the research and I watched, I didn't put a picture up here for it. But if you look at all their acquisitions, every time they did an acquisition, their stock dropped. Because when you spend that much money, you can drop into the red, and that worries people. So they assume that your stock's going to go lower. And unlike LinkedIn, when they purchased Nokia, their flop, Nokia's price did not jump. It just stayed pretty much the same. So that could have been an indication as to its future. Like I was mentioning earlier, the lower projected numbers is because of the sheer size of the sale with LinkedIn. $26 billion would put a chunk in anyone's pocket, and that would be harder to recoup from, which would scare, I guess, potential investors away. Because if it flops like the other two, Nokia and the other one that they had a flop with. 7.6% gap. There's also a picture for this, which I thought was too cluttered to really put on the screen. It showed the stocks, and it showed what they were at and how their drop, and it showed the gap, which is 7.6%, and how they were going to recoup that gap. And next, we're talking about financials with.
Yes, I'm going to go into the financial implications. This is the first time Microsoft will move into an enterprise or a large social media space. This is the first time they've ever attempted to go into this type of space in a significant way. they are looking to monetize through targeted advertising and promotion opportunities. Both companies will end up saving about $150 million a year in cost savings. The acquisition will add to Microsoft's earnings per share, or it will add more value than the cost of the acquisition in less than 2 years, or by fiscal 2019. LinkedIn, as we can see if you refer to the graph over here, LinkedIn stocks, which is depicted by the orange line, was quite low before the announcement of the acquisition. However, when the announcement was made, their stocks went up exponentially. So they were in a very good position to sell. Reid Hoffman, he is the co-founder and executive chairman of LinkedIn. He owns 11% of it, or over 14 million shares. So his stake in the company went from $1.1 billion to $2.8 billion. As a result, he was the largest single gain from the acquisition. Because he was the largest stake, he had the largest stake ownership in the company, then it shows the kind of effect the acquisition had on the other stakeholders in the company. This was a win-win for LinkedIn. Next we will go into why Microsoft took such a big risk.
All right, so why did Microsoft take such a big risk? $26 billion, that's a big chunk of change for any company to be investing in a product that doesn't produce a tangible item. But what we do know is data is the most valuable asset right now. With globalization and with social media pretty much invading every aspect of our life, having that information is crucial to learning more about your customer, learning about what kind of people you want to recruit for your company. With the 433 million users that they have, you have information about where a person went to school, what their ambitions are, what they want to work for, or where they're trying to go in life, as well as like all their friends and all of their own connections. So having that kind of information will be a goldmine for recruiters and also advertising agencies for cross-marketing purposes, because LinkedIn is the standard for professional networking. And this is the first graphic that Microsoft released after the buyout, and it kind of just shows two of their core missions and how they kind of coincide with one another. We have the, on Microsoft side, empowering people and organizations to be more productive, and on the LinkedIn side, we have, of course, connecting professionals with each other so they can both produce more and both be able to bring each other up more. So those kind of two missions are, they're part of their core values, but also it shows how well they're going to be able to, cooperate together and how it'll be productive for both of them. And other than all of the data that they're going to be having for, for reselling or for, own personal use, there will be integrations with other Microsoft products. Of course, Microsoft is the biggest software company in the United States, actually around the entire world, with Microsoft Windows being the top platform for home computing and for businesses. Skype Business is, of course, what Skype is, but Skype Business will become integrated with LinkedIn most likely, because with the video chatting, we're been able to connect with each other and be able to set up business meetings a lot more fluidly and seamlessly. And along with that, we have the cloud computing, being able to hold people's portfolios. Any information that they ever do through Microsoft Word, through Excel, like anything that they have to do with businesses, they can add that to a portfolio. And with that portfolio, it can be shared with other organizations, other people who might be looking for a certain asset for a certain way that you're looking, that you present your information together. Every little thing you do is all data for them to collect, and it's all something that will either help you out in the long run or might, put you at a disadvantage. Another thing that we have, which it's not really confirmed, but it's something that we might see in the future, is its connection with Xbox Connect. Xbox Connect, it used to be primarily for gaming, but now that Xbox has kind of their whole home theater, their whole, it wants to be like the media central for the living room, you can set up, it'll immediately just be able to connect to Skype Business, and you can just make calls just from your living room, just from on the couch, or from anywhere in your house. Basically, there's limited applications for for this integration. And continuing will be the effects of the buyout from Microsoft with Eric.
Okay, so the acquisition of LinkedIn is going to affect Microsoft in a few different ways. First, they're going to have greater social media presence. So Microsoft really isn't a company that's focused as of right now primarily on social media. So with LinkedIn being the largest professional networking site with over 400 million users, they're going to gain access to more of these users by acquiring LinkedIn. And then again, they're going to be creating the largest professional network with this acquisition. And this is just only going to help them because this is going to benefit Microsoft in the long run. And then lastly, they're going to have a boost to customer relationship management. So because the mission statements of both companies are very similar, they're going to be catering a lot towards similar clientele and being able to like share that information with each other. And so for LinkedIn, what this means is that the company is actually going to remain mostly autonomous. So the CEO, Jeff Weiner, has made it clear, and also the CEO of Microsoft has made it clear that they will remain their own separate entity. So the structuring is going to be primarily the same. LinkedIn will also experience opportunities with software development, so like getting into creating apps, linking in with Microsoft. And so users of LinkedIn will now have access to Microsoft 365 while using LinkedIn. So they'll be able to, just because LinkedIn is such a professional network, you can upload your resumes and share presentations and things like that within using LinkedIn itself. And then lastly, they're going to have exposure to 3 billion Microsoft users, so they can advertise and sell their product more to different users of the company. So next, Patricia is going to talk about the negative impacts on the industry.
Thank you. So with the marriage of two such large corporations, there are obviously going to be positive and negative effects felt by their competitors that may trickle down to the customers. Trading will become harder for smaller companies because generally what will happen is they'll have a harder time acquiring as much money to compete with large corporations such as LinkedIn and Microsoft by them merging together. That can also create monopolies for customers, or it can increase prices. Because the market will become difficult for smaller companies to enter because they may not have the amount of cash that is needed to have a successful merger and offer products and services that a larger company would have. And then there's the issue of creativity being reduced, because as you have less corporations in an area, then you have less input. And so obviously innovation and creativity could possibly become smaller. And then there's the monetary value. Again, that's significant because it kind of edges out smaller corporations because the size of this deal was so large. And then we'll discuss the positive impacts on the industry. There is always the possibility of expansion of new customers, because what the small customers could do, or the small companies could do, is they could come together so they could shore up more cash and be able to make a powerful impact on the industry by becoming a recognized player in that market. There's also the spark of innovation for new companies. So again, when you have smaller companies that are coming together to create a larger corporation, you have different ideas and opinions, and that always sparks ingenuity. You also have an increased opportunity for suppliers, financial growth opportunities, because anytime there is growth in an industry, everybody wants part of it, and there's an opportunity to extend, there's an opportunity to